Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday at 9 p.m., so you know what that means. It's time for Red Solo Cooking. I'm your host, Tibbs. For those of you that don't know, this is a simple show done live every Tuesday and Thursdays at 9 p.m., based on college level cooking for cheap, quick, and efficient meals. Now, this month's theme is ramen, and continuing that theme tonight, we are going to be making Cacio. Cacio. Cacie Pepe. So I believe it's pronounced Cacio de Pepe or D Pepe. Didn't get the D in there. Cacio e Pepe. There we go. Yeah, Cacio e Pepe. Cacio e Pepe. Cacio e Pepe. All right, I got it. Cacio e Pepe. Still sounds wrong to me, but it's cool. With instant ramen, I just knocked over a whole bunch of stuff. As our noodle choice. Now, instant ramen is really cool for making this dish because it's going to soak up the cheese water that we're going to make, and it's going to create essentially a pasta mac and cheese. Now, one of the reasons why I love this dish is that it sounds really classy, it tastes really elegant, it even really looks really good, which a lot of times ramen noodles look kind of sloppy, and the simplicity of its ingredients. So you got I'm using Parmesan cheese. You should use peppercorn romano, but peppercorn romano is like $14. So I'm using Parmesan cheese. This was $6. Always get it in a block. You cannot use powder because the cornstarch will ruin the sauce. Always get it in a block, and it's much, much cheaper. If you can afford the peppercorn romano, go for it, but I don't have money like that. From there, butter, olive oil, and probably the most important ingredient, the pepe, or the pepper. I guess the cheese is really the most important ingredient. But anyways, the pepper. Always use fresh ground pepper. This one was like $3. Super, super important that you're using that. I made this one time with the horrible pre-ground get at a restaurant pepper, and it just didn't nearly have the same flavor as it does when it has that fresh ground pepper. But in any case, I'm going to skip on over to the cooking side after getting things set up. That is our meal. And it's going to be quick, it's going to be easy, and I'm going to add a secret ingredient at the end that not everyone has to add. But I like to add it to a lot of my ramen dishes just to make it a little bit better. Stay tuned. Okay, and we are back. Now, let's just quickly get started. We're going to launch in with 2 cups, red solo cups up to the O, or up to the ridge of water. This is going to be a little bit more water than we actually need. I'm going to eventually take it out and remove some of the water, but it's better to go with more and reduce to less than to keep it with less, because you don't want to have too dry pasta, and that's going to be something that we're going to run the risk of doing in this dish. This is probably, just fill this guy up. This is probably one of the harder dishes, or the more accurate dishes that we're going to have to get on this show, just because it's important to keep a good cheese to ramen ratio. Now, that's not impossible, because since this is red solo cooking and we try to use as few items for cooking as possible, we are not going to use a cheese grater. So it is going to be very, very hard to accurately tell how much cheese you should be using. But I'm just going to send it, just going to go for it. Mainly because you guys are going to have to go for it at home, or should I say in your dorm. And get this cheese out. Now, I'm going to start by just cutting off how much I think I need. It gets different color, drier, I would say, as it goes to the end. So I'm actually just going to focus on that big part. Now, you could probably use a cheese knife if you have cheese knives and you can afford them, but I can't. So I'm just using a normal knife. And I'm just going to try and chop this up into as thin pieces as possible. to get it as close to shredded as possible. In recipes online that I've seen for this, it says the go-to amount is around 5 ounces. Now, I don't have any scales that go up that high, but if you do, that's great, and that's what you should probably go with. Again, totally winging it, totally just doing it live. In times when I've done this in the past, other than the 2 times I cooked it in prep for today, I used a cheese grater, which made it really, really easy to tell. If you're using a grated cheese grater, it's going to be around, I would say, about a half a solo cup per package of ramen. If you want to do this with 2 packets of ramen, you can. Basically, just double the ingredients, but know that it gets significantly trickier the more ramen that you add, because we're going for absorption with this and not actually creating just a cheese broth. All the recipes this week are going to be, so today is the Cacio y Pepe, and then tomorrow is going to be the instant ramen gnocchi, or not tomorrow, Thursday at 9 p.m. Be there. And I chose those because they get away from that original kind of Asian idea behind ramen and the idea of it being served in a broth. That's something that last week's episodes really improved. That Korean army-based stew is fantastic, but which will be up online later today for anyone that's wondering. But it's not really that different. It's all just kind of ramen, you know. It's like ramen in a soup that kind of tastes like it's Asian, like it's not that groundbreaking. And I agree with you. It's delicious. It's self-explanatory though. So this week and for the rest of the series, we're going to be getting more creative with it. Starting with instant ramen gnocchi, and really this. Instant ramen gnocchi is going to require a spice grinder, but I'm going to talk about that more that day. Not to just completely babble on. Now, I'm getting these. Let's see if I can get this. A little bit of knife action in here. You know, probably shouldn't be doing this. It's like all sorts of safety hazards and violations and whatnot. But I just did it. Oh, like a glove. So let me see if I can get this. It's just showing up. So this is basically how chopped up. I mean, literally just like I'm shredding it. You don't want to get shredded though. I can't stress that enough. You do not. I understand that this is a huge pain in the ass, and that you can just buy shredded Parmesan and it's the same exact thing. But shredded Parmesan is coated in cornstarch to make it not stick to each other. Otherwise, it would just essentially be a ball in a bag, and it would just clump up like normal cheese would. And that cornstarch will significantly screw with your cheese broth. And I guess that kind of goes for all cheeses, and you can kind of get away with it in like an Alfredo sauce because you want it to kind of thicken up. This, you want the broth to be brothy. You're not going for milk. You're not trying to emulsify it. You're just trying to make it so the noodles can soak up that cheese flavor. Look at that. Yeah. It's looking good. I'm liking that, I think. I've used powdered Parmesan cheese in the past, and it was just awful. What happens is that it doesn't actually dissolve, really. It just coats it with the Parmesan cheese, and it's just not all that great. Or the worst thing would be it would all melt at the bottom and stick and be a huge pain in the rear to clean. But we're just chopping this up, getting there. That's what I'm liking to see. I washed my hands before this. I was actually in DC today. I climbed a tree during the Washington Capitals parade and was promptly told to go down by the police officers, which was lame because there was like a bunch of people like on the fire truck across the street on the cool side of the street, but on our side of the street it was like no fun allowed. The cops were really strict, I mean, everyone else is having a really good time. I still had a really good time. Got to see Ovi lift the cup. It's pretty cool. All right, you know, our water's getting close to boiling. Slide this down in. How is that looking? It's looking a little off. Reverse it, reverse it. Oh, that's the money line up right there. Maybe straighten that up a little bit. Yeah, now it's actually safely on the countertop. As you can see, we're getting this roll and boil. Maybe I can get it a little bit closer. Yeah, you don't need to see that part of the pan. Yeah. Yeah, that nice roll and boil. We are going to go ahead and add our butter. Now, for butter, the amount you're going to want to go with is however much you think should be in your pasta. Some people love to put a lot of butter in there. Some people like to put a very small amount. It helps the cheese melt and not just stick to the bottom of the pan. The oil actually also helps too. I'm going to put about a quarter of a stick of butter in there. I might add more. Also, I know this is hard to believe because I'm so organized, but I'm missing my cooking pair of chopsticks somewhere in my house. I'm going to be trying to find them for Thursday, because that's going to be hard to do without chopsticks. But these wooden ones that help my hand get nice and warm are going to have to do for today. Butter's melting. A little bit of olive oil. Now, there's probably some... You're going to want to use a good amount. You know what? I'll actually measure that out, how much you want to use. You're going to want to fill about up to the shot line of a red Solo cup with olive oil. You can't actually see it, but yeah, about to the shot line. A decent amount. I just freeballed it because, you know, shooting from the hip, kind of my style. But if you're really going for accuracy there, you're going to want to use about a half a cup of shredded cheese, a quarter of a stick of butter, and fill it up to the shot line. I'll post this all with the video once it goes up. Now, I'm going to add this cheese in. Now, the real hard part about this dish is getting the cheese to melt while the water is boiling and not burning off so much water, nor letting this cheese sit. Like, I definitely shouldn't have let that sit in the bottom of the pan for so long. Let me stir this up. Because, see, where we want to be going with it is we don't want it to burn, we want it to completely dissolve, and we also don't want to lose a lot of water, which is just happening all the time when it's boiling. There's going to be a little that burns off. I'm going to turn up the temperature actually a little bit, help this cheese melt in. Now you're going to want to get this white broth, except you can still see chunks of the cheese. When the chunks of the cheese are gone, that's going to be kind of when we're going to want to strike and add them in. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a bunch of freshly ground black pepper. Again, can't stress this freshly ground thing enough. That's just something you want. Yeah, they're kind of disappearing. Also, alternatively, you can spice it up with cheddar cheese as well. I did that one time. It essentially just came out to mac and cheese, and it didn't taste as good as Kraft's to me. So, like that's the go-to with my mac and cheese. It's got to taste as good as Kraft. Yeah, they're starting to thin out. It's starting to get a little whiter. You can't really see that because it's all just one white mess on the camera. And I am. But it's looking good here. Add more of that pepper in, because this is basically a dish that's just exclusively all about pepper. Love these things. You can buy it just at the store. You don't have to get that fancy pepper cracker. You can be cheap and fancy and get those flavors. So that's not 100% dissolved what I'm going for. Just for the sake of timing and not losing all the water, I'm going to go ahead and add in my ramen. Now that 350% is most likely too much ramen, or too much water for the ramen. Do I add another pack, or do I try and drain out the water? And if so, how do I drain out the water? Because my oven mitts are no longer down here. Well, we'll cross that bridge when they come to it. Now, this is looking great. A lot of the chunks, this is just completely dissolved that I was worried about earlier. Really good. Really, really good. Oh yeah. But you know, I'm actually gonna turn down the temperature because I don't want this to be done too quickly. Now that is like so too much ramen, or too much water. Let me see if I can get at this. We're going with the red solo scoop method. I'll let you guys know how it works. You're about to watch. It's probably gonna burn my hands a little bit. Oh, that was nice. Get a different shot so you can see this scoop action. Real nice. Oh no! Oh, that's not. Come here. It's getting less efficient, but at the same time, my noodles are getting more done. Go back to that camera. You guys can see. So, moral of the story, I would say I would actually use about maybe 1 1/4 cup. Yeah, soaking it up. Now, you don't actually want to do what I just did by taking water out, because I also took cheese out. So, who's to say, you know, how cheesy this is exactly going to be? It's going to be pretty cheesy. But as cheesy as it could have been, I think not. You guys are probably noticing the water levels dropping. Okay. Oh, getting cheesy still. Water levels keeping on dropping. Noodles are getting even more done. Alright, so the noodles are basically done, and there's still so much broth in there. We're going to go ahead and plate anyways. It shouldn't be this brothy. I'm going to reduce that to 1 cup. 1 cup for the noodles for the red solo. That's going to be on the updated ingredients list. That's going to be on Medium tomorrow, and it will be on the YouTube description. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Turn this off. Plate it up. Now, I'm not very good, as you can see. I should be getting more of this, but I can't really see what I'm doing. I weirdly have a camera in the way of me. You're gonna see some clumps like that. I don't know if you can see that, but that right there is a clump of cheese is not great. Those are gonna be less of a thing if you actually grate your cheese and don't let it just sit there or cut it up like I'm doing. Oh God, put that back. The more finely shredded it is, the more it's gonna melt into it. Let me see if I can pretty this up a little bit. We're gonna go with the crushed black pepper on top. Again, you need that Pepe if you're making Cacio y Pepe. Bam. It's probably a little too much. Let me slide this out of the way. You see that? Yeah. Okie doke. And we're back. Now we're actually trying to eat it. Wow. Did I leave my chopsticks over there? I did. Maybe we're not back. Oh. Some nice clumps of cheese on those chopsticks. But yeah, there is a pepper overload. Ooh. Enjoy it. So this is just a really solid dish. I mean, in my opinion, it's not as impressive or as scrumptious as the other dishes that we did with the army-based stew and like the pad thai ramen. I think it beats out the chili and lime ramen, but at the same time, this is, I think, the definition of something you would make with ramen to go as a side. I've made this before with like I did like a garlic parmesan or not garlic parmesan, a chicken parm, where I used this as the bed of noodles, and then did the bread chicken on top, and then from there I covered it in more parmesan, like actually parmesan Asiago, but that was for when I was actually trying to impress someone. This is much more for when you're just chilling by yourself and you don't want to eat ramen. This or the same old ramen. Now, you could use more cheese depending on how cheesy you want it. I think at a certain point there's like a saturation level of cheese. I think it happens right around that 50% of a red Solo cup. The amount of cheese I lopped off that corner nub was roughly what gave me 50% of shredded cheese out of one of my cheese shredders. I've made this recipe like 8 times before leading up to this, so that's where I put it. That being said, this isn't as cheesy as I kind of remember it, probably because I didn't use the shredder. I would add more cheese if I was going to do it again the second time around. Ooh. But it still is phenomenal. I completely forgot to add my secret ingredient, which is hot dogs. If you are really feeling impoverished and you feel like eating something, you can put hot dogs with basically anything. And they actually work surprisingly well with this dish. It's essentially like a poor man's meatballs. But yeah, so that is the dish, and that's all. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. All three, oh, 3 of you, man, snap. That is more than we've had this entire time. Yeah, breaking records, that's what I'm talking about. But, in any case, we'll look at the chat. Look at that. Is that Jared? Yeah, it is Jared. Yeah, it's Jared. Alright, but in any case, I'm signing off for the night. My name is Tibbs. Hope you enjoy this show. I will see you this Thursday. And make sure to look out for YouTube for the actual slightly condensed version of this. See ya.